Okay. Aloha, everybody. I'm Chris Leatham, and this is The Economy and You. Our guest today is former Republican candidate for Waikiki, Janet Grace. And Janet and I thought we would come on and talk a little bit about all the weird and wonderful things that are happening in Waikiki and some of the exciting stuff that's going on. Hi, Janet. Welcome to The Economy and You with ThinkTech Hawaii.
Aloha, Chris. Thank you for having me today.
It's nice to have you on the show. And I wanted to let people know if they want to send us any comments during the show, you're welcome to. And you can do that on Twitter at ThinkTech High with an H-I, not H-I-G-H, like a high school, but ThinkTech High. And no dashes, no apostrophes, no nothing. So feel free to blast us a comment or a question, and we'll be happy to respond to it. So anyway, Janet, thanks for coming on the show. And so I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about your campaign. This is sort of your first foray into politics?
That is correct.
Okay. So tell us, what was the experience like for you?
It was an awesome experience because I'm very passionate about Waikiki. I've lived in our legendary, amazing district for about 20 plus years.
Uh-huh.
And just have seen a lot of not real healthy and positive changes over the course of these years, and was extremely disappointed when the representative that I was challenging felt it was appropriate to take a sledgehammer and beat up the meager belongings of our homeless ohana.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
so
just,
is that what sort of compelled you to run?
Yeah, that's what compelled me. It really motivated me. I just felt that Waikiki, not that I'm the greatest or perfect, but that Waikiki really deserved better, and that the person that represents our iconic community should do it with a lot more sophistication and class and dignity.
Well, you know, we've also seen some good and we've seen some bad in Waikiki over the last couple of decades.
Sure.
We saw some of the streets being repurposed, some of the lanes being repurposed for putting trees in and making things prettier. And we've seen a lot of, we've seen the whole Waikiki front redone. I don't know how many times. But we've done all that, but we still have a homeless problem.
Yes.
So it's kind of like putting lipstick on a pig in a way. And so, you know, it's a little bit, so it's kind of like, well, okay, you're doing all of this, but then, you know, you leave the homeless problem unaddressed. And so people come to Waikiki and they see, okay, wow, we've got all these really great beaches, and we've got beautiful palm trees, and we've got lush greens, and then we've got homeless people laying across our lush green areas and sitting on the benches. So, you know, it seemed to me that this is a problem that's been around a long time. It's a pervasive problem. It's a problem that really still hasn't effectively been solved.
Very much so. This is, I believe, here in the Aloha State, everything we know is predicated on the offshore dollar. This is our economic driver, is Waikiki. So we have to really not only protect the industry, tourism, and the businesses down there. I think what we're missing is a whole bunch of different elements of this whole homeless crisis. Number one, we have the highest cost of living in the country.
Yes.
So it's really making it much more difficult for just your average everyday person like me to just pay my rent or to put gas in my car. You know, the GE here just really, I think, cripples a lot of families. There's some bills trying to get through right now, giving people below the poverty level some tax credits, and they're really struggling to make that decision. So I think,
well, and it's a compounded problem, right? Because not only is it the highest cost of living, but the salaries don't match.
Don't match, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a real challenge that way, and you know, a lot of people have asked me, do you think it's because the showers are more accessible in Waikiki for the homeless? But I really believe that, you know, having lived there for 20 years, I remember when there were 2 homeless people. I knew them by name. I used to make peanut butter sandwiches for them, one of these stories, and would, you know, knew their story, knew their names, you know, understood that they were forced out. They weren't crazy, they weren't mental, they just fell on legitimate hard times. And then, you know, as the years went on, you saw that becoming more prevalent with families.
Well, you see a problem where, you know, you don't have housing growth or the number of housing
Correct.
units available to accommodate all the people. And of course, what that does is you have a supply-demand contortion,
Sure.
which means that as real estate prices go up because the supply doesn't improve or keep up, so rents go up, salaries don't go up, so that means somebody has to move out. They can't make their bills, so they're out on the street.
Right.
Right? Because you don't have this growth of income that keeps up with the high cost of living.
Which does not motivate
Yeah.
people to really want to look for a job, something again. You know, I've talked to many, I've worked in, have volunteered with IHS and Next Step Homeless Shelter for many, many years. And, you know, and there's a reoccurring theme that why would I get a job at McDonald's when, you know, every single penny there is going to go to pay my rent, a rent that I can't afford to begin with, when I can live out on this prime real estate for free, get a welfare check, and, you know, life is good. I have it made in the shade.
Well, and then you can get health insurance.
Yeah.
You can get food stamps. You can, I don't know if there's any other financial assistance available.
I'm sure there is.
Right? So the motivation doesn't quite seem to be there. And, you know, I would say people operate in their own best interest. Right? And if working at McDonald's isn't in your best interest, then you're operating off somebody's values of, well, you know, I would rather work than take money from the government. Not everybody feels that way. So when you have that kind of situation, then some people are just going to say, look, I'm just going to, you know, I'm out. I'm just going to let the state take care of me.
Right.
Right? But it's a bit dehumanizing.
Very much so. I think I think it's more inhumane to allow people to exist out on the streets where they are going to get more confused, more disoriented, become less able to care for themselves in whatever capacity it's happening right now, because they don't have the protection and they don't have the means to get a good, decent, healthy meal each day, to take a shower, to have proper sanitation and hygiene. And so it's just a really increasingly alarming problem that's happening out in the streets in Waikiki.
And I see people digging through the rubbish looking for something to eat. And I think to myself, where would I have to be, myself personally, where would I have to be in my life that I would reach into a trash bin, pull out some drink that somebody else had drank out of, or a burger that was partially eaten, and grab it and feed myself, or to drink out of that? I mean, how diminished would I have to be in my own self-esteem, and just to go to that place?
Right, and I think that's a big point too. The value and self-worth of these people are at an all-time low, and it's survival, it's existence. They're probably numb too, and so I've talked to many of them, and that's a great point. So this morning, on less than a mile block, so I live about a block from where I work, a block.
It's okay, I have the same problem. So.
I work about a block from Waikiki, and on my way into work today, there was a homeless woman, probably in her 60s and 70s, which now, although I engage in conversation with them and try to learn a little bit about each of them, I just couldn't look at her because I was so devastated. I was so heartbroken. She had her shopping cart, and she had a bowl of salmon set up on a stone wall, eating with chopsticks. And her cart was full to the brim, and so I'd walk down the block, and right on that corner was a garbage can. I was crossing Makaloa and Ke'iamoku.
Okay.
He just walked right, and I knew, I could see it. I saw him headed right for that garbage can, dove right in, and started picking through the garbage. And you got to pick your battles now when you're trying to help and assist these homeless, because there are so many on every corner, every couple of steps that you take. About 10 steps down the road, there was another man. I had stopped and talked to someone that I had, a friend that I'd ran into, and he asked us if we had $1. You know, an older gentleman, and you're just heartbroken. And these people have really, I think, fallen on legitimate hard times. So there's a big difference. You have to be able to separate the vagrants and the bums and the panhandlers from those that are really sincerely struggling to survive here.
Well, there's a program that we've talked about before called Housing First. There is also a program going through the churches where the churches are helping out families.
Correct.
You don't remember what that program is called?
Is it First Promise?
First Promise, yeah, something like
Family
Promise.
Family Promise.
Family Promise, that's what it is.
Yes.
And it's a great program. The churches are working with families to help them secure housing. In the meantime, they provide them a place to stay, sometimes in a gym, sometimes in a cafeteria or someplace like that.
Sometimes in the church member's own home.
In the church member's own home, okay, yeah. And so what they're trying to do is get these families that little extra step so that they can launch themselves back into mainstream society.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, part of the challenge, of course, is that we have a lot of our homeless are mentally ill. And the Housing First program, which was, well, we've talked about it, but it never seems to get launched, was that we take homeless people and we put them into Housing First, and then we're able to provide the services that they need once we've got them into a stationary place. What we've discovered is that actually is a much cheaper way to provide services to people.
Yes.
Than trying to find them wherever they're floating around on the streets. Now, one of my ideas I had was to find ways to create lockers. Now, you know, they're knocking down the old YMCA. They have all of these lockers. And one of my ideas was whether it's those lockers or some lockers somewhere else, is find lockers that we can put in different places around the city, maybe next to government buildings or someplace where homeless people can go and put their valuable keepsakes. And what I mean by that is their documents, their meds, soap, shampoo, things that you need for general hygiene, okay? Yet, you know, we haven't even seen the state be able to provide something of that nature. So it just seems incredulous that we've got representation. We've got a senator and we've got representatives in our district. You would think they would be evangelizing solutions to these problems.
Well, I'm really stunned that this is not at the top of the priority list. And we hear a lot about Housing First, and Housing First is really tailored to the chronically homeless, those that are drug and substance abusers, those that have the mental health problems. And so what the model is that it's, yes, you don't require these people to have the service providers or having them in the drug rehabs. You get them, you put them in a home, and then you bring in the wraparound services right where they're at. So there's no real requirement for them to be clean and sober, to be off of drugs, to be monitored on their med management and things like that.
It's just getting them in the housing, getting them into place.
Right, but this is my question.
Yes.
This is
okay.
So there's a lot of lip service going on, so I just noticed that there's 1.6 or 9 million, or I want to say million. Don't quote me on it. That is being allocated in the final layout of this budget. Okay, for this year. For Housing First, and I believe, no, that's state.
That's the state. Okay, so I want to talk about this a little bit more. We're going to go to commercial.
Okay.
We're going to come back, and if you've got any questions for us, tweet us at ThinkTech High, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. We'll be right back. This is Chris Leatham with The Economy and You.
Aloha, I'm Kili'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to ThinkTech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
Aloha, my name is Paul Jackson, better known as PJ, and my local interest is in sports. I have my own sports radio show at KWAI AM 1080 that you can stream live. I also have my own website, pjsportsradio.com. We have live guests in studio, and we talk about discussions and topics that everyone wants to know locally here on the islands. We cover everything from surfing to basketball to whatever's going on locally, sports-wise. We try to do our best and cover the topics in depth as much as we can. Once again, thank you for joining PJ here on Hawaii Sports Update. Mahalo.
All right, well, welcome back, folks. Hi, I'm Chris Letha. This is The Economy and You, and today's guest is Janet Grace, former Republican candidate for the House seat in Waikiki. And so, Janet, we were talking about the homeless problem. You know, I dated a homeless girl once.
You did? Tell me about it.
I did, and it was great because after the date, I could just drop her off anywhere.
Oh, that's low.
Oh, that's horrible. But anyway, on a more serious note, talking about the homeless issue, we're talking about, you know, the budget set aside this year for addressing homelessness.
Correct.
Do you feel like we have allocated enough money?
I don't think we've never made it a priority. This is a statewide emergency. So this isn't only prevalent to Waikiki. Everywhere you go all across the state, you see homeless in all different kinds of forms and fashions, sleeping in doorways and,
Sidewalks.
And
you know what? There's the hidden homeless. There are the homeless people who are sleeping on somebody's sofa. They're sleeping in a car or a truck.
Yeah.
They take your pick. That you don't really see.
Right.
They've sort of figured out a way to blend in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're going to jobs every day. They're working. Some of them are working 2 jobs, but you know they shower in the park or they've got a friend's house that they can go take a shower at. But essentially, they're still homeless.
Right, and exactly, it's devastating, it's heartbreaking, and you know, when I'm down in Kaka'ako, I personally will pick the kids up. I've done it for years, and I'll take them to my house and shower them. I'll take them out and buy them school clothes. I've actually started a couple nonprofits for the kiddos down there at the Next Step Homeless Shelter that have been going strong, just to bring some dignity and some value to their lives and to try to take away that stigma of homelessness. But my point is that you have little children, you have little babies laying on cement sidewalks where we've allowed them to live in that abject poverty here in America, in the Aloha State, in paradise. And something is gravely wrong with this picture. I feel guilty when I go home to my modest 1-bedroom apartment in Waikiki. How do we lay our heads down at night? How can we live with ourselves knowing that babies, little kiddos, our veterans, our elders, our parents are living on the streets in hopelessness and despair?
Is this a question to you, Janet? I mean, do you think this is a question of people are just overwhelmed? Are they just apathetic? They don't care. It's not my problem. I don't have to worry about it. I'm ensconced in my own little world, and what goes on outside my own little world isn't my problem kind of mentality?
Well, are you talking about the homeless or the lawmakers? I have to tell you,
okay.
I was at Ala Moana. I was taking an elderly man out that has moved here 8 years ago from Boston. He has no family here. It's 69th birthday. Took him out up to Ala Moana, my district. Tried to patronize in my district, up to Macaroni Grill, and I noticed all the Democrats were going into the restaurant next door, and I don't know if it was a fundraiser or what was going on. That's their business, right? But you know what? It's my business too, because we're their employer.
Yes.
They're the employee.
Yes.
We're the boss. And you know, it just saddens me. I wonder, here I am, an average citizen, trying to make a difference, trying to volunteer, contribute, give back to my amazing community. And you know, what are our lawmakers doing? You know, the man I ran against said, hey, I'm tired, quoting him, I'm tired of trying to pass laws because ... Well, Mr. Legislator, your job is to shape policy that is going to protect the overall welfare and quality of life for every single person that lives on this island. And many of them are, not all of them, but many of them are falling short. Again, their priorities are all messed up. And I would just want to add, if I may.
Yes.
You know,
Go ahead. Feel free.
a couple of weeks ago,
Yes,
it's
yes,
dangerous
yes.
to put me on camera. A couple
Okay,
of
no,
weeks
no
ago, there was a front page article that said the shame of Waikiki, and had homeless people laying in the pavilions or in the bushes. Front page
But
of
they're
the
not
paper.
the shame. They are not the
the sh-
shame. The shame is us not taking care of that problem.
Right.
That's the shame.
And it's going to take an all hands on deck. You're a former Marine, I'm a former Navy girl. We know what it means to be disciplined, to formulate a plan of action and how to execute that, how to mobilize the masses, how to energize the base, how to impassion and embolden, and how to really motivate people to get on board and say, wow, let's all own a piece. We're all stakeholders here.
Yes.
This is our community.
Yes.
This is our Waikiki.
Because here's the thing that I think our legislators miss sometimes. They are leaders in the community, not just lawmakers.
Exactly. You
Okay?
nailed it.
Yes. They're leaders in the community. Their function is to lead, take on a leadership position, and get engaged to figure out how to motivate people to be a part of that solution set.
To lead by example.
Yes.
I'm going to follow a leader that not only says what he means what he says, but walks his talk and gets down in the trenches and does the dirty work when it has to be done. And that is a leader that I can get behind and that I can follow.
And I can put an amen to that. Okay.
I'll double that amen, brother.
Okay, good. You know, this was a great conversation. I really appreciate you coming on the show because,
Thank
you know, and we're talking about homelessness, and we also need to talk a little bit about the elderly. You know,
My
they
favorite
are,
subject.
Yes, you are just, you are awesome for what you do. I don't know how you get up every day and deal with people who are on death's door. They are living the last days of their lives, and you are there holding them, holding their hands, and helping them pass. And I can't even imagine how emotionally traumatizing that can be some days, that you're there when people they're living their last days. And you do that so well, and I can't tell you how impressed and what kind of character that takes to do that. So, you know.
Thank you. I'm impressed with them, that they have lived these amazing lives, have imparted and left a legacy, and have given us the opportunity to have the freedoms and the amazing life that we have here in Hawaii. I had the privilege to care for the late Peggy Chun, a local artist here, beloved artist with Lou Gehrig's disease. And I was her ventilator, Peg's legs caregiver. So I did her nighttime care. I managed her ventilator. So her breath and her life was in literally the palm of my hand. And I was terrified when they taught me and they trained me on that vet. But I'm an advanced life support caregiver. So I've had the immense honor of going into many of our, our families' homes here. In the state, and I do end-of-life care. So I've sat with families in Waikiki and have watched them take their last breath, or encourage them through that process, or comfort them through that process. And what a lot of people might not know, Chris, is that Hawaii has the largest aging population in the country.
Yes.
And we are
being
outpaced in the number of people that need care. The demand is so great, and we just cannot keep up with the request for services. I was in Halinani. It's a skilled nursing facility off of Pensacola Street, and I was amazed this morning at the number of seniors, hundreds upon hundreds, sitting outside their hospital rooms, just waiting for a personal touch. Hi, Auntie, how you doing today?
Yeah, that's
just to give them a smile, a word of encouragement. You know you matter, that your life is important.
Yes.
You know, at 80, 90, 100 years old, and no senior should be left behind. And it's amazing. If you saw the things that I saw with the neglect and the abuse and the seniors living below the poverty level on very fixed incomes, in fear and isolation. Many of our seniors in Waikiki were in a dense condominium district.
Yes.
And in just a few of the condos in my own vicinity.
And it is very, I mean, you're on Hope
it's-
Brown Lane,
it's-
right? So
yes.
it's very condensed
Yes.
there.
And just tragically, over the past 3 months, 3 seniors were found not alive in their apartments, and they lived alone. And it's devastating, and it
Yes.
should not ever happen.
You know, I've had that situation where I found somebody who had passed away. He'd been deceased for a few days, and so of course there's very telling signs when somebody's
course.
passed away. So, yeah, and I guess, you know, the thing is are we doing the right things as a culture? Are we becoming too much like the mainland? You know, it used to be that families in Hawaii were multi-generational households, and it seems that we've moved away from that, and we've gone more toward sort of mainland style care and lifestyles. And I think there's really something lost in that because, you know, children gain from being around grandparents and great-grandparents. There's, you know, this is sort of a special time, and those are special relationships that children bond. You know, they don't have to be authoritative. Grandparents, of course, get to spoil their grandkids.
Oh, grandparents are the best.
Drive parents crazy because
Yes.
the kids get away with everything, you know,
Yes.
with the grandparents. But you know, that's still that's a great dynamic. I remember my grandparents and what a wonderful relationship I had with my grandmothers and grandfathers. So, you know, I think we reassess whether we're doing things the right way. And maybe we need to figure out ways to make sure that, because, you know, for grandparents, this is very important for them too, because their grandchildren are their greatest joy.
Yes, they treasure it. It's priceless, and this is, you know, this is the silver tsunami or the tidal wave of the aging population, which we will be there. The baby boomers. That's you and me. We're going to be.
Bite your tongue.
We're
yes.
the ones that are going to be needing our depends changed. And,
no,
you know,
no.
You know, it's really serious stuff here. And
oh my gosh.
but yeah, you cannot put a price tag on caring for an aging parent, an aging auntie or uncle. Our kapuna are highly valued here in our community, and that is one thing. I grew up in a Hawaiian family. I came over here in the Navy, and I had it was crazy. I got to live with a Hawaiian family when I came here, and they taught me about the culture, which is very unique and special. It's very different than the mainland, and I had to learn, and I reverenced it. I was so in awe of this magical place called Hawaii. I mean, I remember as a kid in New York, I would just hear the word on TV, Hawaii, and it was, I've never been here. I didn't know much about it, but it was magical to me. I knew it was very special and a place to be treasured in. So here, I think that it is surprising to me how neglect is a really harsh word, but how we don't put more emphasis.
We're not achieving our goals, or we're not really doing as much as we should be doing,
right.
You know. And I know that it's a silver tsunami, but if we figure out ways to engage our older people, you know, when these kids have their May festivals, their May Day festivals, which are coming up, by the way, folks, if you aren't aware of it, elementary schools across the state are going to be holding their May Day festivals. So if you get an opportunity to go and watch, I'm sure you're going to have a great time. And I would really like to see people volunteer to take some of the elderly to some of the elementary schools to go watch the May Day festivals.
Wonderful.
I'm sure they would have a great time. Everybody would have a great time.
Amazing time. And they love it. The seniors want to know that they're valued and that they matter, and all those years of experience and wisdom and heartache and pain and joy, raising families, contributing, growing, building. I took care of many seniors. I took care of a lady whose husband built Kapiolani Hospital. I took care of legislators and city councilmen's families, and just their stories. World War II vets. I had the privilege to care for the oldest living West Point graduate, 104 years old. I was there by his bedside, watched him take his last breath, but the stories when he told me he took the first troop into Normandy and he got those orders, and it's crazy. And so it's like, why wouldn't we want to just love on them and give them big hugs and say, thank you,
don't
Uncle,
they have great
thank
stories
you,
to tell?
Andy. Oh, I could sit all day with them.
Well, we're going to go to commercial. I'm Chris Leatham. This is The Economy and You. We're going to be right back, so stay tuned. Don't change the channel. Aloha.
Am I crazy?
Hi, Jay.
Hi, Keith.
My name's Keith Bettinger.
I knew that.
And I'm the host of ThinkTech Asia.
I knew that too.
Here on ThinkTech.
Fabulous. You got a great show going, Keith.
Thank you very much. And for our viewers out there that are interested in ThinkTech Asia, it airs every Tuesday from 4 to 4:45, and it can be accessed online at thinktech.com.
Yeah, so what kind of guests you like?
Well, we have a number of guests from academia, from practitioners of international affairs. Sometimes we have military officials. Sometimes we have public officials on the show. And our goal, we try to talk about current issues in South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, and Central Asia, all throughout the Asian realm in more depth than you would find in traditional mainstream
That's
media.
the difference, isn't it?
Exactly.
That you're reaching out beyond what ordinary news media would do.
Right.
That's why we like you so much.
We're trying to provide a thinking person's perspective, an intelligent perspective on what's going on, and we're both sides of the story, or even when there's more than two sides, we try to cover every angle. And I think that's one of the big benefits that we provide here at ThinkTech. Is it's a really innovative source of educational programming for the people of Hawaii.
You're great, Keith. You are a great host. You got a great show going on. I watch it every week.
Thanks very much.
Why don't you guys watch it every week too, okay?
4:45 to 4 to 4:45 every Tuesday.
Hi, I'm Chris Leatham. Welcome back. This is The Economy and You. Today's guest is Janet Grace from Waikiki. She is a former Republican candidate, and she's graced us with her presence today. And we've been talking about homelessness. We've been talking about the elderly. I know we're going to touch a little bit about the development and sort of the things that we'd like to see happening here in the future. But you wanted to share a story with us about your experience dealing with the elderly, and I'd like to hear your story.
Certainly, I've got a lot of them, but one that really stands out and that is recent before we took the break is I had, so I work with the largest and oldest nursing agency in the state.
Mm-hmm.
So
You
what?
want to put a plug in for them?
Attention Plus Home Health Care.
Okay.
Joint Commission State Licensed Agency, 32 years providing really safe and reliable quality home care for our families here on Oahu. And part of my job description is going into the hospitals, the assisted living facilities, the skilled nursing, the intermediate care, and just all of the medical facilities, and meeting the families right where they're at and helping them work on discharge plans, working with the social workers and the family members, making sure that post-acute place that when they get discharged, they're going to be in an environment that is going to help them get better. Our job as home care providers is to sort of work ourselves out of a job, because when we have a healthy aging society or community, everybody wins.
Yes.
So I was at a hospital the other day, and I met this adorable 85-year-old man, and you just want to eat them up. They're just so cute. And we were talking, and I understood what his home care needs. He had a stroke.
Oh, okay.
So he was recovering well. He's going to get discharged until a skilled nursing wing of the hospital, and then he was going to come out, and he was going to, the recommendation from the social worker was home care for, every other day, help him shower because he couldn't bend over because of the weakness on his arm and some other physical limitations. Well, I was going over the rates, and he said, well, okay, that sounds great. I can afford this and this, but, I really had to struggle because I'm on a fixed income, and maybe I won't take a bath. Maybe I won't eat dinner tomorrow night. And I thought, my heart just sank. I thought, wow, even our seniors, we here in Hawaii, the cost of living is astronomical. It is off the charts. It is sky high. We have to start really finding ways to make it manageable and much more easier for people to have a good quality of life here. And when you see it affecting our seniors and they are unable to get the home care that they deserve, then we've got a big red flag going on.
And here's one of the things I find interesting. You have people who are living in $1 million homes in Manoa, in the surrounding communities and neighborhoods. They're rich on paper, but they don't have cash, and they're loath to do a reverse mortgage because that means they have nothing to pass on to their children. And so they find themselves in a precarious situation where they have worked their whole lives to have a nice home and have something to give to their kids, but now they find themselves without the money or financial means to take care of themselves. And it's such a strange predicament.
It is really the saddest thing. You know, my sister lives in a bedroom home in upstate New York. It cost her $250,000. They are pretty comfortable. You know, everyone in the home has a job, but they're not living from paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. And, you know, my mom died last year. My dad had a nice insurance policy. We were able to give her a very dignified funeral, and now my dad is all set. He just retired last week, and, you know, you know, and here I'm working with a family right now. The uncle is in Luna Lilo home, and he's declining. I mean, a beautiful facility. It caters to the Hawaiian elderly.
Okay.
And so we're getting his end-of-life long-term care needs squared away. And we're trying to figure out how we can give him a funeral, and the only feasible, economical solution that we've come up with is cremating him for $800 and handing the family a box of his ashes, and that's it. That's the funeral. It's tragic.
It is. And you know, I think, and the thing is, we need to figure out structures that allow us to do this. The problem is, of course, as soon as the government steps in, and then there's some private enterprise, you start being on private enterprise's toes, and then you get what's the term I want to get? Pushback from companies who do this for you know, who make a living off of this. And
well, can I interject there? Companies like the one that I work for, we add value creation. We add to the stakeholders in the community. For example, my organization, we have 70 RNs on our staff. Been doing this, an industry leader for 31 years. Joint Commission, we have the highest level of accreditation in the country for our home health care agency. This is why I love working for them. And so what we do is we build in at discharge. We meet with the social worker, the discharge planners. We look at the history and physical plans of the client. And so we teach and we train and we get in there. So we're adding value to the stakeholders. We're doing a job that takes away the anxiety and the pressure from them having to do it. They can focus on some other things on their job. So we're adding value, you know, to this industry.
Yes.
So I think, so as a private company, we want to come alongside and we want to take away those government programs that really are not needed because we're doing it. And so those taxpayer dollars can go into other programs that might be more, should be on a higher priority list. More beneficial, yes. Exactly. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I did want to talk a little bit. We've only got a few minutes left here, about 4 minutes left on the show. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what you would like to see. You're going to run for office again.
I'm gonna. I wasn't going to announce that yet, but yes, I'm really excited about it.
Okay, great. So, what, in terms of future growth or development, what are some of the things that you would like to see? If you, in a perfect world, what would you like to see happen with Waikiki?
There are a lot of things. You know, I walked along the Alawai this morning and took my morning walk. It's filthy. And I don't mean to be a downer, but, you know, people tell me, Janet, don't say crisis, don't say problems, don't say... They're staring us, they're glaring at us right in the face. That's why we are in the predicament in the situation that we are in and why so many people are struggling. Our level of intervention has to be equal to or greater than the crises that are facing us. We need people that can manage these challenges right up front, right when they're happening, get everybody at the table, and start, you know, knocking them out. Not waiting till they ripen this far down the road and then they get away from us and then everybody's scrambling and everybody's in a frenzy. We need people that can see, they can understand, they can have relationships with other people in the community and start, you know, start chipping away because these are complex problems. You know, so I'd like to see the Alawai cleaned up. I'd like to see the beaches, you know, more money put into the beach. I'm not sure what my representative is doing. I know that he was thinking of...
Well, we have some future problems coming down the road because water levels are rising. Ocean levels are rising. We're going to have to do some serious work if we don't want the water coming in to Waikiki. There's going to have to be
Great
some work
point.
and a huge investment made at some point to restructure so that the water doesn't, because you can stop the ocean, the tide from coming in, but eventually the water table
It's gonna
rises.
rise.
It's going to rise up through the
Right.
through the ground. So we're going to have to figure out how to address those challenges in the
Yeah.
future. We're going to also, we can also take a look, and our homeless problem isn't going to get any better anytime
Right,
soon.
and that's another thing. I
Yeah.
noticed that visitors, so the numbers from the tourism industry show, which are really great, because I was an award-winning marketer for the Hawaii Visitors and Convention Bureau.
Uh-huh.
I got to showcase all of the direct and indirect hits of the industry to the world. I worked with all the activities, attractions, hotels, accommodations. I understand how the business works, and everything again is predicated on the offshore dollar. So my gift and specialty store in Waikiki, my business in Waikiki has to be something that when a Hawaii magazine is in, Australia, and that person in Australia is planning their Hawaii vacation, opens it up and goes, okay, Janet's gifts and specialty items, Hawaiian coffee and this and that, they're gonna come to my store. Arrivals may be up, but they said that expenditures are down. When you have homeless coming in and you have this myriad of problems, people are gonna walk on by, they're gonna walk over a homeless person, they're gonna be disenchanted, they're not gonna wanna look in because they're already, a little
They're taking it back.
leery.
Yes.
They're taken aback. They're like, wow, this is not what I saved my entire life to come and experience. So I have a concern for the business owners right now. The hotel industry, I love Waikiki. I've stayed at many of the hotels in Waikiki. And I would just like to see them have the resources and the money and the marketing programs that they need to make this the premier and only vacation and business incentive destination in the world.
Well, that's a tall order. But you know what? I think
We
it
can
starts
do
with a
it.
dream. It starts with a dream, right? You have to have a vision first, and then you realize the vision,
Correct.
right? Okay, so we're down to our last few seconds here. Is there anybody you want to say hello to, or?
Just everybody in Waikiki in the state.
Yes.
Again, I probably will be running, I will have a website up, I will be campaigning around the neighborhood. We have a really wonderful team. My heart is to understand what the needs are, what the concerns are of the people in the community.
Awesome.
And, getting together and trying to work on those is a family and is a neighborhood that cares about and is really sincere and authentic about each other.
Okay, well, great, Janet. That was awesome. And thank you for being on the show today.
Mahalo for having me.
Okay, I'm Chris Letha. This is The Economy and You. And hopefully we'll see you again next week, Wednesday at 3 o'clock. And thank you for watching. Aloha.